wanted to start off with like a real positive note. I just celebrated my 4 years of sobriety. 7/11/2017 is my sobriety date. And I can't, I've put together, 3.5 years, 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, but I don't call it mental health sobriety. Any Isabel person could have, I've had, whether it was shopping, gambling, sex, using men or women as my gods, it didn't matter what it was. And this round of sobriety for me, people say what's different this time. And what's different is I got all the way honest, like all the way honest. Not the kind of honest where, the half measure is honest, where it's honest, where it's convenient for you so that you would approve of me or like me. It was brutal honesty where I can hold myself accountable for everything. And little acts of honesty is what slowly built my self-esteem up to be where I am right now, which is really, really awesome. So, I've been, in 19 rehabs and homeless on I don't know how many streets. And I always make this joke, and I think I said this to you before, Damien, also, my attorney had once asked me, have you ever been arrested? And I'm like, which state? and for me to be able to sit here today and share with you guys the truth and how I got to where I am right now is really awesome. And this isn't like one of those stories like, oh yeah, I got sober, everything is awesome. Like I have full custody back of my children, I'm remarried, I'm a professional tennis player, I own my own company, everything is awesome. And I say this a lot, like this shit is hard. Like this is real work. And there's not a second of every single day that I'm not reminded of how fucked up my brain really is. And the work that it takes to be a respectful, responsible young lady in this society today. And I like to start with this story because it was one of the moments that like changed me into the person that I'm becoming today. And I was driving, I was newly sober and I had just gotten my license back. And there's a parking lot where it says Brooks Brothers parking only. And, rules never applied to me ever. I was the center of the universe and nothing applied. And I saw the sign and I'm alone in my car and I'm like, damn, like, I can't park there. It says Brooks Brothers parking only. But before I would have always parked there because there was nobody in that parking spot. It didn't matter what the sign said. And I remember not parking there and pulling into a different parking spot. And that was the first time that I ever got honest alone with myself. And for me, my higher power is God. But that little act of honesty, the next day, what it did for my self-esteem was huge. And it's these monumental things, that little moments like that were monumental for me. Because, I was that person where, the disease doesn't discriminate. So I went to a co-ed private school. I had a really great childhood. I always make the joke that my mother has a sip of non-alcoholic white Zinfandel, and she's like, oh, I think I feel it. I'm like, Mommy, no, there's no alcohol in it. She's like, no, there has to be, and my father, both my parents are from a communist country. My dad's like, you don't demand respect, you earn respect. You give honey, you love. If there's a will, there's a way. The more no's you get, you're closer to a yes. I don't know where I came from. I'm like a walking oxymoron. And, I played tennis growing up. I was #1 in Northeastern Ohio from ages 12 and under to 18. I had a full ride to Indiana University to play tennis. And my senior year of high school, I was working at a coffee shop. And this busser comes up to me and he's like, hey, I'm having a birthday party across the street. Why don't you come on over? And I'm like, sure, whatever. And so I go across the street afterwards. And I had heard of heroin and cocaine and marijuana and alcohol. And I had never tried anything before because I'm an athlete. And it wasn't in my circle. And there was no alcoholism or drug addiction in my family that I know of or knew of at that time. And so I go to this party and there are these white rocks everywhere. And I'm curious. So I say, what's that? And they're like, you want to try it? And I had never heard of crack before. And so they put this $30 hit of crack on for me and they show me how to smoke it. And the second that I tried it, I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked. And 2 weeks. And it's interesting because the things that came right after that, you would think that I would have stopped then, and that was just the beginning of my disease, of this road of 19 rehabs, homeless on the street, smoking crack with cockroaches in abandoned apartment buildings, while sticking needles in my arm, because of that very first hit of crack that I didn't say no to. And 2 weeks into the disease, and I was 17 or 18 years old, so I didn't have money. I didn't know. And back then, they had Kinko's Copy, where it was open 24 hours. And my parents, they didn't know anything about drugs, neither did I. So all I knew is I couldn't go home. So I would go to like Kinko's Copy, and I wouldn't come home, and say that I had some paper that I had to do. And I keep going back to the 2 weeks into the addiction. I had a 97 Mitsubishi Eclipse and I sold it for $20. And I had a $700 Nikon camera and I sold that for $30 hit a crack. And, and then it just started. I learned the hard way. I ended up on the streets very quickly. There's a reason, like, I'm not going to, go through this huge drunkalogue because, everybody knows where this disease really takes you. But just so that you guys can understand how profound this is for a person like me to be where I am today because of the things and places that this disease took me. And, Damien, I think I shared this before one time, but I'm going to share this story again because it's the truth. So, I was very newly into my disease, and they called it Big Mama's house. And it's where the drug dealers all went at the end of the night. And everybody, the drug dealers counted their money, and there was men and women, everybody having sex with each other. And it was my third day, and there was the lady who lived at the house. They called her Big Mama, and she's one of those people with no teeth. And, she thought that I had stolen from her. And she goes to the closet and she goes to grab her gun. And these four guys come and they pick me up and they take me to their car, the dealers, and they say, we'll take care of you. And they took care of me all right. So they went down the street, and I'll never forget it. I went up these stairs, and I walked past this guy sitting on a couch, and we went to this room, and to the right there was this mattress that was had the plastic ripped on it, and to the left there was this closet with a hanger moving back and forth, and in the back there was a screen that was kind of ripped. And they each took care of me. They pushed me on my stomach and they raped me from behind, and then each one of them, and they had their way with me, and then they threw a $5 hit of crack at me afterwards. And don't you know, I smoked it. And I remember, it was the winter time in Cleveland, and I walked down those steps and there was blood, down my legs, and I didn't have shoes. And I was walking in the snow in the streets of Cleveland, and I had just taken that $5 hit of crack. And so this was just the beginning of so much more. And you would think that that story would have, what had happened to me would have put some sense into me, especially since it was the beginning of my disease, but it wasn't. That led to all the other stories that we always talk about. I mean, the amount of stores that I've robbed, and houses that I've, robbed, and cars that I've broken into, and the amount of this disease isn't a joke. I don't think that any mother in their right mind would ever choose drugs over their child. I don't think, I mean, I remember being in my first crack house and watching a mother sell her 6 or 7 year old child, to a drug dealer for sexual favors. And, you know, this disease is real. And I share that story not to, give you guys some long drunk log, but I share it to you so that there's understanding about how I I was able to recover. And I talk about the sex part in recovery a lot because, for me, sex was power. Sex wasn't about love and emotions. It was about money and power. And um, my husband today, what it took for me to allow myself to allow myself to feel, first of all, let alone like have an orgasm or feel feelings or um, equate making love with what it really means after the street life that I put myself through. Because I was that, hotel. I hate saying this about myself, but it's the truth. I was the hotel whore. Yeah, I really was. And then, I remember one day just looking at my body and just in a mirror and just saying, like, I can't do this anymore to myself. And I had to figure out another hustle. It wasn't, I can't do this to myself anymore. Oh my God, I have to stop. It was, I have to figure out another way to get drugs, and you could tell that the thinking wasn't right. And, um, so there was many facets to, where I would, and I think that I had shared this in the beginning, that I would have put together like 2.5 years, 3 years, 4 years, 1 year. And I don't call it mental health sobriety because, even in that sobriety, again, any addiction that any person could have, I had, sex, shopping, gambling. It didn't matter what it was. It was anything to not feel my feelings, and whatever it took for me to stomp on you so that I would be okay. And then I would apologize later for it, or, constantly needing validation from people, so that I would be okay with myself, and I fed off of people instead of myself. And so I go back to that first story, when I got sober. So I want to tell you guys, I had begged many, many times, for me, again, my higher power is God. And I begged, to get out of this time, or I'll do whatever it takes. And I really thought that I really meant my promises. And I didn't mean them until this one time. And I was in a crack house, and I remember, I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I didn't want to get high anymore. And it's like, what do you do? And I was so broken. And I had met my husband now a couple of weeks before that, and I had said to him, actually, it's kind of weird how I did it. I was at a yoga class out of my mind. It doesn't make any sense, but I was, and I thought that I could hustle him. I had found out what he did for a living, and I thought that I can get, a quick $100 from him so that I can go smoke some crack. And he called me that night, and we went out for dinner. And a couple of weeks later, and the thing is, what's interesting about that dinner, we went out for wings, is I never met anybody that talked more than me, and he did. And there was something, because I had been on the streets for so long, that I was so used to the street life, that having like an intelligent conversation, or listening to somebody have an intelligent conversation with me, was quite profound to me. And I liked that. And I didn't understand at that time, but that was my core value, something that I grew up with. And a couple of weeks later, I was in a crack house, and I remember calling, my husband's name is Jordan now, calling him and saying, listen, you don't know me, but if you never speak to me again, and if you don't come and get me right now, I'm going to die. And so he picked me up, and he took me back to his house. And I remember watching him. I remember seeing that he had shampoo in his shower. He had a Veda shampoo, and I was living on the streets, so seeing a shower, let alone with shampoo and soap in it was crazy for me. And he had a bed and he slept in it. And I remember him having a coffee maker, and he would prepare the coffee at night, so that it would be ready in the morning. And I remember watching him and thinking to myself, with or without that, with or without him, I wanted that. I didn't know how to do it, but I wanted it so badly. And I remember it was on 7/11/2017. And Jordan, we were dating for a full year, but he was out of town a lot. He's a sound engineer for, rock stars and a production manager. And that's why he was able to take me on, because, now I'm his rock star. But he was used to seeing people with big personalities like me. And the first year I really struggled because I was completely on my own. And I remember on 7/11/2017, I was in a crack house, and I had been up for what felt like a year. And I remember saying something to God and just being so scared and saying that I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know that it can't get any worse than this. I had lost custody of my children. I had nothing. I sold everything of mine. I had no vehicle. I had no license. I had no phone. I had no clothes. I had no jewelry. I had nothing. I had no soul anymore. I was so broken. And I remember taking this last hit, and the girl who was across from me, she looked at me, and it was weird. It was almost like it was God speaking through her. Her eyes changed, and I felt this push off of the bench that I was on. And I looked to my left, and there was nothing there. And she looks at me, she goes, "Didn't you feel that?" And she goes, "That spirit telling you to get out. This is your last chance." And she saw me get pushed off of it. And I remember just looking at her and looking to my left and just being so scared and taking this breath. This is right after I took this huge hit, and I walked out that door because I don't know why I heard her say, "This is your last chance." And I walked out that door, and I've been ever since, sober ever since. And what's crazy though is I went and sat down with my attorney at Panera after that. And I remember telling him that I was ready to get honest, like all the way honest. And I was on, I had like 4 cases in 4 different counties. And I remember going to all the judges and just telling the whole truth. I mean, I was so fucked up. I mean, I did shit like, my ex-husband, he had the kids, and unfortunately, he's in his disease right now. And that's a story for another time. Thank God, though, while he was in his disease, he was healthy enough in his disease, I guess you could say. I guess you guys can understand that he was a functioning addict at the time. Thank God. So, but I would do crazy shit like call the police and say that he beat me up, and I beat myself up, and I would destroy my house. And the police would go to his house in the middle of the night to try to arrest him, and it never happens. And, I had to go to the courts and tell them the truth of the stuff that I didn't have to. I wanted to. I got to. And I was ready to accept all my consequences. And I had a lot of them. And I remember going in front of every single judge and telling them all the way truth, not just half of it, all the way. And the second that I decided to get honest, everybody started to help me. It was crazy. And the first year of my sobriety, I wasn't allowed to talk to my kids. I was able to get the kids away from their biological father. And my parents, thank God, they had temporary custody of the children, but I wasn't allowed to see them the first year. Any drug test you could fake, any way you could do it, I did, and I got caught. And so they actually changed in Summit County here in Cleveland, Ohio. They changed the way they do the whole court system because of how fucked up my case was and how sick I was. And that's not something to be proud of. I was that broken. But I wanted help, and I was scared. I didn't know how to do it, so I begged for help. And when I didn't know how to do it, I kept saying, I don't know how to do this. But I remember the first year, the kind of drug tests I had to do hair testing, and nail testing, and toenail testing. And I had to get naked for my EP test for them to look inside of me because of all the different ways that I faked things and the levels of the drugs and the alcohol. But I was willing now because I didn't care to take any test they wanted to take from me now, because I was doing it. And I had never done anything right in my life before, let alone be honest. I didn't have anything to hide now because I told the truth. And what's amazing about telling the truth is it takes all the power away. and nobody can hold anything against me or over my head because the truth was out. And I have to tell you, it was more scary keeping all the lies and all the secrets than it was telling the truth, because um I was fucked up and I needed help. And so I remember at 6 months sober, my therapist, um, uh, I said, oh, yeah, I'm ready to get my kids back. I'm healthy. Everything is great. And he's like, no, you're not. And I remember at my 1 year of sobriety, my therapist said to me, he's a forensic psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't know which way to say the difference. But at a year of sobriety, he's like, okay, you're ready to get your kids back. And I remember looking at him saying, no, I'm not. And the reason I said, no, I'm not, was because I was actually doing the work. It's so awesome doing the work because I see the difference in me and the people around me. And so I remember going to court with my husband now, and it was like being pregnant with twins and going to the hospital, but it was the court and coming home with kids. And now suddenly I had to be a mom. And I was the most self-centered, selfish, self-absorbed person. And now I'm bringing these two innocent children home. And it was amazing because I had a team now. I was listening and I was asking questions, and I would ask other parents. And I was so open about my story that it wasn't hard for me to ask for help of how to do anything. And the only way that my kids are, I've had full custody of my children now for a little over 3 years. And the only way that I was able to have them heal, ideally for, they're 10 and 7 now, but ideally for that age, they don't need to know all of this stuff. But the only way that they were able to heal was by me telling them the truth. And it's amazing because the holes in their life and the questions that they don't have anymore, because they know that it had nothing to do with them. They have an understanding of this disease, and they actually know the whole story about me, all the ugly, everything, because now they have understanding and acceptance. And what's crazy is I would get in not arguments, but those tips that you have with your partner. So I would get in these tips or arguments, whatever you want to call it, with my husband, Jordan, about the iPad with my 10-year-old. And my husband has healthy boundaries, and I am just learning about boundaries still, because I do not have healthy boundaries at all. I remember in one of my 19 rehabs that it was family day, and they put the family members on one side of the room, and I was on, we were on the other side, and they had the family members or us, whichever way, come towards each other. And whenever the person got too close, you had to put your hand up. And I remember my mom putting her hand up like way before anybody was anywhere near her, because she had healthy boundaries. And I just let the person walk right through me because I didn't have any boundaries. And so now, in present day, I find it that I was arguing with Jordan about this because, my kids, they would say something and I would discipline them, and then I would fall into the, oh, okay, 15 more minutes or whatever, and my husband's like, you're doing a disservice for them. And then I came to realize that it wasn't him that I had a problem with, it was me, because I don't have healthy boundaries yet. And it was cool because I got to go to the kids and I got to say to them, you know what, I'm just learning about having healthy boundaries also. So how about Jordan's in charge of this, and the three of us can learn this together. And it's amazing the dynamics in our home, because I'm able to communicate about my own health with the kids so that we have a healthy home. And that when I'm not thinking right, or I'm not saying something right, I can say that to my family and say, you know what, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I've never done this before. What I do know is that I love you. I love my family, and I have no idea how to do this. And everybody understands, and it's amazing. And so probably about, I don't know, it was like my first year of sobriety, and I made this vision board, and I thought how awesome it would be to start to play tennis again. And so those of you who didn't hear in the beginning, I used to play, I was #1 in Northeastern Ohio from age 12 and under to 18. And I had a full ride to Indiana University, and I lost that because of my crack addiction. But I ended up walking on at Ohio State and playing tennis for Ohio State. I'm really like a walking oxymoron. And I don't remember my college years. I didn't graduate. I was at Ohio State for 4 years. I played tennis for them, but I don't remember my last year of college at all. Anyway, so I made this vision board, and I thought, how awesome would it be to get center court at a Grand Slam, let the world know at that time you could be 40 in recovery from drugs and alcohol and have a do-over. And the next day after I made my vision board, I kid you not, I ran into my old tennis coach who I grew up with at a Starbucks that he never goes to. And I started to play tennis again. And I don't know if you guys know who Nick Bollettieri is, but he's one of the #1 coaches in the world. You know, he has 10 #1 Grand Slam. Grand Slams are like the US Open and Wimbledon, the French Open, and he has 10 players who won the Grand Slam. And I saw him in this movie. It's called Love Means Zero, with him and Andre Agassi, you know, because he coached them also. And he coached like Serena Williams, Andre Agassi, Maria Sharapova. And I was like, I want to meet him. I want to tell my story. And so I strategically placed myself at IMG in Florida. And there was this, you know, like the adult group, whatever, because I'm 42 years old now. I was 40 at the time. And I remember talking to this guy, Roger, telling him my story. And he's like, all right, he's like, I got to go get Nick Bollettieri. And he puts me in this room and he puts Nick Bollettieri on the phone. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is, you know, if you're a tennis player, Nick Bollettieri is like, and so I get on the phone with him, and he's like, come on over to the tennis courts, kid. You know, let's see what you got. And I'm like, oh my God. So I got on the court, and he's like, action. And, you know, I tell him my story, and he, and I share this a lot because this man, he never said that my dream was too big. He never made fun of it. He said to me, well, kid, let's see if we're coachable and teachable. You know, let's see if, what an amazing story this would be for the world if you could do this. And long story short, a little bit before COVID started, I made it on the pro tennis tour. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, you know, but if you look me up on Google, you don't see my mugshots now. You see that I'm a professional tennis player, which is crazy. I have a team now, and I got to tell you guys what I'm learning on the tennis court right now. You know, they're teaching me how to be calm and slow, but think fast, and to not react, and to think before I do things. And it's almost like, you know, playing chess. And I'm like, I'm a crackhead. Like, I react to everything, and I'm a hood rat, and I lived on the streets, and now I'm on the tennis court, and you're telling me to be calm. And it's amazing because the things that I'm learning on a tennis court, I get emotional about so many things because the story is so real. And for a person like me to come through and to be able to tell you guys that it's possible, that we can recover, it's so cool. And so I'm on the tennis court, and then because of what my coach is and these people that believe in me, I have a beautiful home life now. My life is different with my family, with my children, with my husband, with myself. It's amazing because Whitney Houston has this song. You guys have to listen to it. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. And it's the song, I Believe Children of the Future. There's a line in it where she talks about learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And the thing is that I really understand the concepts now because I'm living it. That, and I know I heard this my whole life growing up, but I never behaved it. I never lived it. I never was it. And it's, if I don't like me, why would you like me? You know, if I don't like hanging out with myself, why would you like to hang out with myself? And these little acts of honesty, and these monumental things that I didn't do my whole life that I'm doing now, it's what's building my self-image and my self-esteem today. And it's so awesome, you know. And I just recently had surgery on my wrist. I was taking cortisone shots, you know, because we had to train my body from a crackhead, homeless on the streets, to a professional athlete, and what it took to learn. And you know, I used to have an eating disorder also, just add that to the list. So I was a bulimic as well. So I had to learn how to eat and train my body to get to the level that it's at right now. And it's amazing because um, with my eating disorder, I remember there's a moment where it's like I didn't want to feel bad anymore. And I knew that I was gonna, if what I put in me, if it wasn't, if I was gonna make myself have to throw up, it changed the dynamics of my thinking, of my mind, my body, my gas, my stomach, the way that I had sex. Everything changed because of the things that I changed chemically in my body from the way that I ate. And I remember just being sick of that also. And I remember that I was like, if I'm going to get healthy, I want to do this all the way. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop everything. And I remember that the way that my body started to heal was by just being honest with myself, honest knowing that if I put this in me, it's not going to make me feel good. And I remember the first time I was at my sister's house, and my sister is like this, how do I say this? She hasn't really forgiven. She talks to me. I have a relationship with her, but I haven't earned her trust yet. She doesn't know me the way that I know me yet because we don't live in the same state. And so I remember sitting at her table a couple months ago, and they had all ordered pizza. And I remember always doing whatever anybody else wanted me to do because it was important for you to like me because I didn't like me. And I remember they made all this pizza, and it was my first time ever that I said, no, thank you. And everybody's looking at me like, what? And it wasn't because I wanted to be different now, because I was always different. No matter what I did, I found a way to put myself in a situation where I was noticeably different than anybody else, which sucks. And I remember saying, no. And they were like, how do you have that kind of self-discipline? And I said, it's not about discipline. I don't want to, I know how I'm going to feel after I put that inside me, and I don't want to feel that way. And I carry that with me with everything that I do today. I know that if I don't tell the truth, it's not right for me. I know that if I put food in me that doesn't make my body feel good, it's not good for me. I definitely know that when I crave, and I crave all the time, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, I think about like that first second of that first hit, and I'm like, oh, but then I think about like the third second and the seventh second, and that's what scares me, because it's like that third second, I'm fucked. That 7th second, I'm already looking for another hit, and I'm in this vicious cycle, and I'm scared, and I don't want to feel that way ever again. And right now, so back to the surgery. So I had to take cortisone shots because this 42-year-old body is playing 6 hours of 3 to 6 hours of tennis a day, plus being on the training, the footwork and the lifting and everything. And my coach says to me, you can't take cortisone shots anymore. And now I can't take cortisone shots because of the doping testing on the tour. I'm like, this is so funny. This is what they're going to drug test me for, is I'm a crackhead and they're going to drug test me for cortisone. So without the cortisone, I was in too much pain, and I had to make a decision to have surgery because my bone is too long. So they had to saw the bone, take a whole bunch of nerves off of the other nerves, and just do a whole bunch of stuff to my wrists. So we were preparing for it for the last couple of months. It's actually a really positive thing that happened, but it was my first surgery in sobriety. And it was the moment when I had to be honest with the doctors and with the nurses and let everybody know, that no matter what, I can't take a mind or mood altering chemical, because for me, if I put any mind or mood altering chemical in me, like for real, it's over for me. I'm a full-blown drug addict. I'm a full-blown alcoholic. I cannot put anything in me because I'm smoking crack later. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not enough, and there's not enough in this world. Eventually I'm going to run out and I need more. And so they gave me extra nerve blocker. And so the next day when I was at home, I like woke up and my arm was like over there, and I'm like, oh my God. But I made it through. Tylenol and Advil is remarkable. But that little act right there of honesty built my self-esteem also. And I feel stronger today, and I feel honest, and I can talk to you guys and I can share with you because this is the truth. And it's amazing. And it's so cool because I'm already back on the tennis court. We're preparing, and my goal is to make it to the Grand Slam. And I believe that I'm going to. There's a lot of amazing things that are happening right now with my tennis career. My coach, one of my coaches from Florida, he was Serena Williams' hitting partner and Sharapova's hitting partner. And it's a long story, but he ended up moving into our house for 4 months, and now he moved his family. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and he's here coaching me, and my whole family is a part of this dynamic. And this has just been, it's been so hard, guys, and it's so rewarding. And it's I listen to like my husband, and I hear him like when he has like a complaint, and it's so weird for me because I'm like, nobody can else complain but me, because I'm the center of the universe. And suddenly now there's other people that have feelings, and I need to listen to them. And then I find myself suddenly wanting to listen to them. And then there's like all these like mind shifts, and everything is monumental for me. And I love sharing it because I feel like, any normal person cleans the dishwasher, and you're like, okay, cool, they clean the dishwasher. I say I clean the dishwasher today, and everybody's like, yeah, great job, or I made my bed today, and we're like, yeah, it's crazy shit like that we can all relate to. And there's one thing that I want to say, before I end this. And if your story isn't as crazy as mine, if your story is crazier than mine, whatever it may be, I think that what's really important is feelings are feelings no matter how we feel them. Happy is happy, sad, sad, glad's glad, love is love. And no matter how you feel sad, sad is sad. And whatever I've been through caused me pain. And whatever you've been through, I'm sure caused you pain. You know what I mean? And there's a way out, because I'm living proof that there is a way to recover, and I don't know what way is going to work for you. But I do know what way is working for me. And that's by being honest, like all the way, and sharing this with you guys. And it's so awesome on this side. And I don't ever want to give this up. And there's many times I want to say, fuck it. I don't want to feel this feeling, or this is uncomfortable. And I remember saying, I think this is what sad feels like, or I think this is what happy feels like. But the feelings pass. Scared feelings pass, and happy feelings pass, and sad feelings pass. The feelings pass. And then I'm okay. And it's weird being okay, because I've never just been okay, but it's okay to be okay. And it's okay to share that with other people. And so I just wanted to share with you guys. If you want to follow this story, the link in my bio, it's at Erica Story. The link in my bio shares the full story of it. And it's really cool. There's a lot of stuff happening. You're going to be doing a documentary on Netflix and on ESPN. I just signed with them. And this isn't just about tennis. This is about, everybody knows somebody or has somebody who's either in their active addiction or in recovery. And I want to be able to let the world know that we can recover, and that we can do this. And if you guys ever want to talk, I love getting direct messages. I do answer them. And we're a family, and we're a team, and we're in this together. And by no means is this easy. But I think that that's why we're here with each other, to help support each other. Because I cannot do this alone, and I don't want to do this alone. So anyway, so that's me, and I love you guys, and thank you for allowing me to share this with you. And I hope that you come along this rest of my journey on the tour, and that you all get to see me playing at the US Open. So, and I love you guys. And thank you, Damien, for having me. With that, I pass.